Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Crysalyst Life. I am Katrina White.
And I am Susan Lynne.
Great. So today's topic of conversation, Susan.
A very important topic.
It's so important.
Forgiveness. The importance of forgiveness.
Practicing forgiveness.
For our own sense of well-being.
Absolutely. And this is kind of almost a controversial topic to some people.
Right.
Because if someone has done something to you,
Mm-hmm.
physical, emotional, we say to the people that we're coaching, and what we're saying out to you and what we're writing about as well, is forgive them for what they have done. A lot of people get very tense about that.
And why do you think that is?
Because they want to hold on to the anger and that hurt, for some reason.
And it feels as though if you forgive, you're saying it was okay, or you're condoning whatever that behavior was.
Exactly.
And that can feel like you're letting yourself down in some way. So
true.
If that's the case, then why is this such an important topic that so many writers have written on? We've got Louise Hay's book here.
That's right.
Marianne Williamson has written on this. Also,
Dr. Wayne Dyer.
The Dalai Lama. So what is this thing about forgiveness?
Yeah, well, I think, indulge me for a minute, but this is from Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, which you would have heard us talk about in previous episode, kind of our go-to book for many things.
Yeah.
But actually, even Jack Kornfield in The Wise Heart, who's a Buddhist monk, I mean, forgiveness is everywhere in terms of the practice of letting go, right? To free your soul, to free your sanity. So here's what Louise Hay has said about this in a very short paragraph. We need to choose to release the past and forgive everyone, ourselves included. We may not know how to forgive, and we may not want to forgive, but the very fact that we say we are willing to forgive begins the healing process. It is imperative for our own healing that we release the past and forgive everyone. And she has a lovely affirmation. I forgive you for not being the way I wanted you to be. I forgive you and I set you free. It's beautiful.
The setting free part is so important because you're not only setting that other person free in your mind's eye, you're setting yourself free, because we've learned from research and lots of reading that when you're carrying around anger inside you, it can really affect your health.
Absolutely.
And really affect your organs and drag you down energetically. So the forgiveness is a way of cutting that tie, because if you're still enraged or angry and haven't let the person go, it's like you're linked like this energetically and constantly re-experiencing the same thing. And then the forgiveness allows you to shift it. So it's not, you don't have to even forgive them to say it to them. You could forgive them in your mind's eye and say, you know what, that's the best they could manage at that moment. And that's their problem. And I forgive them, I release them, I let them go. And then I'm going to go on with my life. So have you actually used this technique? And are you willing to talk about any of maybe a situation or a person that you've forgiven?
Yes, because one thing I just want to add is forgiving other people is one thing, and hard for a lot of people to do that. But I have also found that a lot of people have a very hard time of forgiving themselves.
I've found that's the hardest thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes, we're so hard on ourselves.
It's true. So I'll give you an example that combines both.
Oh, that's
kind of why I raised that other part of it.
Sounds great.
Oh my God, I have so many examples. My head is spinning right now, actually, with examples. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I held on to the angst of my parents who were constantly telling me in the most loving way possible that I was a mistake.
Oh. Because you were younger by 17 years or something?
Yeah,
like
almost
that.
20 with my brother.
Yeah.
And my mom was in her 40s when she had me at a time. I mean, she'd be over 100 right now.
Uh-huh.
So this was a very long time ago. Mm-hmm. You didn't have children that early.
Or
that late,
yeah.
pardon me. And you also, being reminded all the time, again, as a small child, you're in that theta state. I was taking in all of this.
Like fact.
Exactly.
You're absorbing it like a sponge.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I buried that, and I carried that with me. And my mom was very ill as a result of having me. Mm-hmm. And she also had a lot of challenges mentally and physically because of being so ill. Mm. So what ultimately happened is I would get hit a lot, like a lot.
Like physically?
Physically hit. Mm-hmm. And constantly put down in their own way, trying to tell me to be better.
And stronger.
And stronger and all this stuff. But over the net of this point I want to make is that I carried this guilt and anger towards them for what, you didn't want me? I'm a burden. That's how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I am not good enough or worthy enough to be their child. I carried that for many, many years. Yeah. And eventually, through the practice of releasing this anger and through forgiveness, saying, Mommy and Daddy, I forgive you. Now they're not alive, so I did this, Mommy and Daddy, thank you for keeping me, first of all, choosing to keep me, and you did the very best that you could. Mm-hmm. And I forgive you, Mom, for hitting me a lot, for making me feel bad, but that was also my choice.
Mm-hmm. After a certain point.
After a certain point.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things I needed to forgive. Yeah. And by forgiving them, I also did the reverse of forgiving myself for carrying this for so long. Yeah. Because intellectually it didn't make any sense, right? But emotionally, it stayed with me. It haunted me for so many years.
And so what's it been like since you did the forgiving? And I'm going to imagine it just wasn't in one moment to the next.
No.
It's like, oh, I feel better now. I said I forgive you. I imagine it was a process. And then what's it been like since? What's
I'm free.
The feeling? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness equals freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom of thought, freedom of pain, freedom of your soul to just experience love. Yeah. And to understand that while people might do something very negative, I was sexually abused. I'm not sure who that was, don't need to know who that was. I have forgiven that person during this process as well. Mm-hmm. Because I choose not to carry the pain of the past forward. Mm-hmm. I don't need to. It's the past.
Yeah.
And by not forgiving anyone who has done me wrong, what's that done for me? It does nothing. They're free to go on and do whatever, but it's eating me
and
alive.
You're carrying this around with you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I see this, or I hear about this all the time. Mm-hmm. People just want to hang on, like they're almost addicted
to the anger.
Yeah. Because they think that everything's going to get better if they stay angry. Well, it's not. It's going to physically, emotionally, and then physically eat you alive.
Yeah, and it does nothing to the other person whatsoever.
Exactly.
It's all destroying your inners, your guts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is hard for a lot of people to get their head around.
Well, sure.
Right? Especially when you're in so much emotional pain or even physical pain.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's actually mission critical to your own health, your own well-being. Mm-hmm. And the greatest thing you can do if someone has hurt you in some way is to move on.
Yeah, and also to not rush yourself, to know it's a process and it can take time. And I like what Louise Hay says, I don't know how to do it, but at least to be willing to explore it. It's like, okay, I don't feel like forgiving, but I know it's going to be better for me. So you can even say, I don't know how to do this, and I would like to forgive. I would like to let go and release and undo this kind of tie, energetic tie to the person. So even to just say, I'm willing to forgive, and just let it be a process. And be gentle with yourself.
It's true. And one of the things that really helped me, and we've talked about this in a previous show, is journaling.
Yeah.
And one of the things I actually did was not only journal about it, but I wrote a letter to my mom. And I wrote a separate letter to my dad. And I wrote a letter to this, whomever this person was. I was very young, so it's very buried, but who assaulted me. And I forgave them in this letter. And I sent out all this energy, right? I released all the negative energy by penning it, which I thought was a very cathartic thing to do.
Yeah.
So something to think about if there's someone that you need to forgive or desire to forgive. Part of the process is to not only say it, but also to write about it. In actual fact, I know someone who will write things down and then burn it.
That's a great thing to do.
Yes.
That's a great process. Write down whatever it is that you would like to release, forgive, and let go, and find somewhere safe that you can burn it. And if you can't burn it, maybe tear it up or shred it.
Right.
So that it's a symbolic, like that is just destroyed and transformed.
Yes. Excellent.
Well,
what more would you like to add?
I'm feeling that this feels complete to me. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
Such.
Yeah, it's an interesting time in my life, but that was the past. You know, there's every day I am grateful for the opportunity to forgive. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because many moons ago, I held on to all that anger like I see a lot of people do today.
Yeah.
And we have to tell you, absolutely does not serve your greater good.
Let it go.
At all. You have to let go.
And it's a process.
It is. And trust in that process and love yourself enough to want to forgive both whomever you need to forgive and yourself.
And yourself.
We can't stress this enough.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest things that we can share with you for inner healing and to ultimately create a free and loving life that you really love living every day. And you can't do that if you're carrying all this angst along with it.
Yeah.
So it's important to free it. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Crysalyst Life.
Thank you for joining us. And forgive yourself. You're worth it.
That's right. Excellent. Thank you, Susan. So until next time, we love you.
We love you.
Ciao, ciao.
And see.
I love it. Mwah. Thank you.